Hey everybody. Today we're going to finish up the Revolutionary War by reading a section called After the War in North Carolina. The Revolutionary War has ended. North Carolina is now a state in the newly formed country of the United States of America. Britain no longer rules the colonies, and the Continental Congress has designed a plan for our new government in the United States Constitution. Everything should be great, right? No, not quite. In short, North Carolina, along with many other states in our newly formed country, became a state of turmoil and conflict among their own citizens. Freedom can be a wonderful thing if you know how to use it responsibly. The war left the land of America ruined, and the newly formed country starting off in a great debt. War is expensive, and it was up to the United States to repair itself. Additionally, citizens of North Carolina did not agree on what our state economy, the way a state or government and its people make money, should look like. Many arguments were based around what North Carolinians really needed versus what North Carolinians wanted. Depending on which citizen of North Carolina you asked, you would find that people had different wants and needs and had different ideas on how the money they earned should be spent. As you can imagine, this made things very difficult when trying to establish a new state and nation that was unified. People who lived in Western North Carolina often did not make as much money as the wealthy landowners in Eastern North Carolina. This caused Western North Carolinians to complain about a lack of money and a lack of influence on the developing government since they were so far from our state capital. Wealthier planters, lawyers, and merchants disagreed with people who had less money in North Carolina regarding how much freedom citizens should truly have and how much power government officials should ultimately get. Wealthier citizens of North Carolina often had the power to run for state government positions that would give them the authority to make laws and decisions for all of the people of North Carolina, including the poor. North Carolina quickly became an agriculture state after the Revolutionary War, making most of its money by growing and selling crops to other states and countries. While many farmers became wealthy off of the money they made from growing and selling crops, it seemed too expensive to pay workers to take care of their farmland. As a way to get around paying the costs of workers, slavery grew in North Carolina. North Carolina farmers, often called plantation owners, along with many farmers in other surrounding southern states, required many people to work for little or no pay in exchange for a place to live. However, the living conditions were very poor, and slaves were treated as property that could be bought and sold. This caused many people to be separated from their families. The lives of children were also impacted after the American Revolution ended. Where you lived and how much money your family made had a major influence on the type of education you would receive if you were a child living in the post-Revolutionary War era. Our North Carolina Constitution stated that a school or schools should be established by the legislature for the convenient instruction of youth, and all useful learning shall be duly encouraged and promoted in one or more universities. Although it seemed this statement meant that all North Carolina citizens had a right to education, this was not always the case in reality. Education for children in North Carolina after the Revolutionary War looked different for children across our state. Children from families with greater financial resources would often hire a paid tutor to educate their children at home, or would send them to private schools that cost a larger amount of money. There were some community schools that were run by volunteers throughout the state, but there were fewer of these community schools in Western North Carolina, where it was more rural and the population of people were poorer. Post-American Revolution was a difficult time for many North Carolinians. While we had officially become the land of the free, this was not reality for many people who lived here. Not everyone had access to the same resources, like education, safe living conditions, and food, like we do today. That was often determined by how much money a family made and where they were located in our state. Since people of wealth often had different priorities than poor or enslaved people did, values and beliefs about wants and needs were different depending on who you asked. Financial and economic stress, along with differing views on how our state and country should be run, caused continuing friction, or conflict, among citizens long after the war ended. Perhaps another war was brewing on the horizon.